Hello, my name is Shwani. This is the Curly Bookworm, and yes, I have colored my hair. But this is not about that. This is about the many books that I read in the last 3 months, which was basically January, February, and March, and I want to talk to you about that. Let's begin. Before we begin, I just want to say that if you like this video and if you like this kind of content, especially about books and stuff, you might want to share this, you might want to like this video and help up it in the world of algorithm or whatever, so other people can reach it. I want to start today by telling you about the very first book that I read this year. It was called The Mark of the Thief by Jennifer Nielsen. It was set in like ancient Rome, like a few hundred years or something like that after Caesar died. And the protagonist of this book, his name is Nick. He is a slave in the mines and he is a slave to the Roman Empire. So what happens in this book is that it opens on him being forced to go to inside the mines where it's very dangerous to retrieve some sort of treasure. What ends up happening, however, is that he ends up discovering this magical amulet that used to and is rumored to have belonged to Caesar, and it's rumored to have magic in it. Now he doesn't know that. He takes the amulet and then he sort of runs. There's like a whole bunch of things that happen that make him feel unsafe about taking the amulet or about returning back. From there on, he's on the run because basically everybody wants this amulet from him. Over time he discovers that it is magical and that it responds to him in a certain way. It all sounds really good, doesn't it? But it kind of it wasn't that great. It was very basic fantasy, if you know what I mean, like super basic. It was like, I can't even remember. I just read it and I can't even remember most of the details in the book because it was quite forgettable. It wasn't bad per se. Like, I think I rated it 2.5, which is just below average. But I'm never going to remember this book. It's part of a series. I'm not going to pick up the second part. So it's sad that I'm starting this video out on the worst book that I read so far, but that's about it. Most of the other books that I've read are really good. So let's go on to the next one. The next book that I want to talk about is The Vanishing Half by Brit Bennett. It was one of those hot books last year that people could not stop talking about, and I was like, let's see what this is about. And so I picked it up. I liked it. I liked it a lot, but I didn't love it as much as the rest of the world did. I think I gave it a 3.5, which is still a really good rating. 3.5 on 5 is basically above average, good, not excellent or amazing, but good. It was a good read. So this book was about two sisters. They're twins. They live in this back of beyond place in Southern America. The town that they live in is so small that people don't even know to put it on a map. They are really hoping that they can just get out of this town and make something of themselves because they feel really restricted. Now, the unique circumstance that they're in is that they live in this town where people are almost white looking. What has happened over tens of years before is that white people, while slavery was still around, were sort of making children with their slaves, and a lot of these children had other children amongst themselves, and this whole town as a result is almost white looking. They're black people of origin, but they have a lot of white blood in them, and so all of them almost end up looking white. This is a very weird place to be in for the sisters because they are not really black and they are not really white. And so to navigate this in the 60s by themselves after having left this town is their problem and it's their hardship, and they figure it out, and they figure it out in completely different ways. Two sisters who love each other, who are like this, they're twins, have very different lives and very different outlooks to how they deal with their circumstance. It's got some generational storytelling, so that's really beautiful, but it felt a little bit lazy. I know I'm gonna get a lot of flack for this because people love this book, but there were times when it dealt with certain issues that I wish that they dug deeper into, but it was beautiful nonetheless because you got to hear from perspectives that you otherwise never would have. That's also something that I really love about reading historical fiction and stories set in times before ours, because you get to like sit in their minds and wonder what life was like then to a certain extent, and it's almost like time travel, you know. So yeah, pick up this book for sure. It has its faults, but it's also beautiful. The next book that I want to talk about is this one. This is a book that was gifted to me by my friend Ashu when we were in Bangalore. So we went book shopping, and he was flabbergasted that I hadn't read this book. Yes, I know I'm probably one of the last people to get on the train that this is this book, because it was a train. It was such a ride. It was crazy. This is actually 2 books in one. It's actually the Complete Mouse duology, I think. So this is a graphic novel, and that's what it looks like. It's beautiful. Let's begin with that. The first book in this duology is this author basically interviewing his father and talking to him about what it was like, and he wants to document it. He wants to write a story about it. So he starts writing down and recording his father's life, his parents' life before the war, the Second World War. And it goes into how, you know, his father met his mother and what happened pre the war. It wasn't as if just being in these camps were horrible. There was a life before that, a few years, where just existing as a Jew in Germany was just god awful. And the author goes into that via his father's story. And the second book is one that I actually like even more than the first book in this duology, because that actually delves into deeper things like his own feelings about his father, how the being in a concentration camp and being treated that way has affected his father, what it has made him, and what then has happened to the author himself. How has being the child of, you know, the Holocaust survivors affected his own life and his own thinking and his own mentality. All of that is really beautiful, and of course, like I said, gorgeous illustrations. I have so many feelings about this book, it's not even funny. The next book that I want to talk about is this one. This is such a good book. This one is also a 5 on 5 for me. It is so good. It was recommended to me by my friend Rupa and Siddharth, and they were reading it, and I got on that bandwagon and I read this too. It is like this wonderful meeting of fiction with non-fiction. It is about the life of a therapist who also goes to therapy herself, and her understanding of therapy and how it affects people and what the process is, while she talks through her own experience of therapy, because she's just gotten through like a really bad breakup and she's not able to understand how to deal with it. She also talks through the stories of a bunch of other people that she is treating as a therapist. I think those people are basically like a confabulated, you know, exaggerated details, change details off, change names off type of a situation. So there are like 4 people in the book that she talks about, and she talks about their stories, and she goes into like each scene delves into these people coming back into therapy and revealing something new, or her getting to you know this person, her struggles with her own patients, and her struggles as a patient as well. And yeah, it's really interesting because she does it in the most non-preachy way. Like, I am one of those people who thinks that everybody should go to therapy. It should be just as mandatory as that yearly or biannual sort of health checkup that you do, where you go to do your blood reports and you try to see if everything's okay and working in your body. In the same way, I thoroughly believe that you should be going to therapy, you know, a couple of times a year, if not more. If you need it more, then more, but like at least a couple of times a year. So I feel like this book is almost like should be mandatory reading for everybody, because it kind of tells you why therapy is important. It also, in the most non-preachy way ever, it tells you how it helps. People who haven't been to therapy have an idea of how therapy works. And honestly, as someone who has been to therapy and regularly goes to therapy, because I use it for growth even now, not even just like sorting my brain out, as someone who does that, I'm telling you that therapy is nothing like you possibly imagined it to be. It is so much more than you counseling yourself or someone like your best friend or your mother counseling you. And if you read this book, I feel like you will have an idea of what therapy can do for you and how the process works. And that is why I think that this story is so valuable. There's a lot here that you can really pick up from and learn from, and I would highly recommend this book. Okay, so the next book that I want to talk about is this one. This is The Dilemma by B.A. Paris. I've talked about this before. I actually listened to it as an audiobook, and so it is part of my audiobook videos, the ones that I recommend. It was really good. I rated it a 4 on 5. This is about Adam and Olivia's life. Adam and Olivia get married really early in life, and they don't have the support of their parents. They're not very well to do because they're kids really themselves. They get married because they get pregnant, and therefore they decide to have the child, and they get married, so they don't have a wedding really. And Olivia really wanted this big wedding, but it never happens. So she decides for herself that on her 40th birthday she's gonna have a big blowout birthday party, and she's dreamt about it for decades. She knows exactly what she wants, etc., and she's like dying and looking forward to that day. And because things go wrong when you lay out all your plans, Lydia ends up having a really good day, but like a really bad surprise at the end of the day. And so the book really is it goes from Lydia to Adam's perspective. Everybody's keeping secrets, their children are keeping secrets, and so it's not the most well-written book. It's not even the most fascinating story, but I love the way it was told. I could not stop listening to this story. At parts, it was even predictable, to be honest, but I was like, I still want to know what's going to go on. I still want to know how all of these secrets are going to get unraveled. This perfect picket-fenced family with like everybody being so happy all the time is just, it's not true. So I love when books and any kind of art form sort of tries to break that down and tells you what's behind the scenes. So yeah, this is one of those books. Go ahead and read it. The next book that I want to talk about is Miss Benson's Beetle by Rachel Joyce. This was quite a joyful book, I must say. It was a very interesting book. I think I rated it 3.5 on 5. There were a few things that I didn't love about the book, but mostly I just really loved the story. This is about a 40-plus-year-old woman who has seen both wars, the first one as a child and the second as a grown woman. And she's an English woman. This is now the 50s, I think the late 50s. She has settled for a very shitty life. When the book opens, she basically is teaching home economics to these girls in school, and she hates it. She doesn't even know it, but she hates it. But one day the penny drops and she's like, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to go look for a golden beetle that is found in the middle of nowhere. She decides that she wants to take whole life savings, and then she wants to go looking for this tiny beetle that you really like, you can barely even see it. She's fascinated by beetles. It's just one of her secret obsessions and her secret passions, and so she is now obsessed with finding this golden beetle. So now in New Caledonia, which is like this tiny place, they speak French. It's a French territory, and she doesn't speak French. So she decides that she needs a companion who does speak French. So she sends out an advertorial, and then people apply, and then finally this one woman randomly shows up, and her name is Enid. And Enid is crazy. She has like this crazy blonde hair, wild, crazy, out there makeup, crazy clothes, like nothing like Marjorie herself. Miss Benson is exactly what you think of when you think of a Miss Benson, and so she's very proper, and she's very like inside herself, and Enid is out there. She's just like this larger than life sort of a character, and she brings flavor to Marjorie's life, to Miss Benson's life, and they go on this crazy adventure. And so yeah, I recommend that you read it. The next book that I want to talk about is one that I've already made a whole video on, so I'm not going to go into detail. If you want to know more about that book, then I will link it here in the description. It's called The Push, by this new author who has blown my mind. She has written this book so beautifully. There are so many things within this book. It's so layered and so nuanced that I really loved it. It's been marketed as a mystery thriller sort of a thing, but it's not really a mystery thriller. It's more like a psychological family generational saga with a mystery angle to it. It's about this woman Blythe who basically tries to figure out if she's the crazy one or if her daughter's the crazy one. Like, she doesn't want to be a mother. She gets sort of talked into it by her husband, and she has this daughter who she has this really weird relationship with. She doesn't even know if she is a good mother or if her daughter is just a little bit off. Like, the whole story sort of revolves around that, and it's told as a letter that she writes to her husband. Anyway, so that, like I said, I'm not going to say too much about this. Go check out the other video if you want to know more about it. But it was an excellent book. It was a 5 on 5 for me. I could not stop thinking about it. A and B, I could not stop reading it. The next book that I read was also a super book. This was a 4.5 on 5 for me. This was Robin Hobb's The Assassin's Apprentice, which is the first book of the Farseer trilogy. The story of this book is about a boy who is born illegitimately. He is the king in waiting, so basically the prince's son. One day his grandfather, who raised him along with his mother, just drops him off to the palace, and he says, "You take care of this boy. This is no longer my concern. I've done it for 6 years. I don't want to do it anymore." And so this child grows up in the palace where the royal family lives, and the royal family, they don't know what to do with him because he can be a dangerous contestant for the throne in the future. So he is basically like a liability in that sense, but then they can't just like get rid of him. Neither can he just be, you know, left to his own machinations or whatever. So they sort of semi take him in, and they train him to be an assassin for the king himself. So while he's not recognized officially as part of the royal family, everybody knows that he is the prince's son, and they now train him secretly to become the king's assassin. It gets really interesting because there's so many magical elements, and there's so many political intrigue points, and there's all this plotting going on. It's just the world that this author has built has just fascinated me. It was such a good read. Please go read this book because it was such a joy. I'm reading the second book right now, and that is a joy as well. And the second book has a dragon on its cover, which is so exciting to me because I love dragons. So those are all the books that I read in the last 3 months. That's about it from me. Let me know if you've read any of these books or you plan to read them in the comments below. I would love to have a conversation. I will talk to you soon. Bye bye.